Good day, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Unleash with FTEM, Unleash with from the expert's mouth. And today we are here to wake you up. And what we have for you is pearls of wisdom to do that. And putting the waking up and the pearls of wisdom together, we have the co-founder of Sleepy Owl, which is Arman Sood. So, Arman, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here, and thank you for having me. I'm very excited to do this.
Yes, so are we. We are very excited to learn about your journey of entrepreneurship and particularly from the background that you've come. I think it will be inspirational for a lot of people out there who are kind of sitting on the fence and looking at the journey ahead.
Mhm.
So, without any further ado, Arman, why don't you run us through your background and what your journey has
Sure.
been so far?
Sure. No, thank you so much for such a warm introduction. I loved how you spoke about wisdom because wisdom comes and is associated with the owl in such a big way.
Right.
And I think even waking up as a term is associated with wisdom in a big way. It almost sounded like enlightenment. I hope that I'm able to do justice and deliver both wisdom and enlightenment. It will be thoroughly and only from my experiences. The caveat that I give everybody is that I don't know it all. Always to be taken with a pinch of salt,
No.
right?
No, absolutely. I think, that's the spirit with which we've started from the expert's mouth. And the core idea is that everybody's experience is useful for somebody else or the other. You just need to come
True.
and discover. It doesn't matter whether you're a successful entrepreneur or a big shot CEO or even a college student for that matter. And I'm sure, even if your college self were to give your gyan or perspective, there would be a lot of people who would have found value in that as well.
No, 100%. And I think while yes, it's from the expert's mouth, and here I think I'm considered the expert sitting here, and it's from my mouth that the information is going to come. I think before proceeding on my journey or anything that I would like to share, I think it's important to note that I'm also on a journey, right?
Right.
Like everybody else is, and while one may refer to the person speaking as an expert, it's important to take that with a pinch of salt because there is mistakes that we make even now on our journey. There are things that we are also discovering and learning, right? Which is why
Right.
the caveat that this is all just anecdotal, and how I look at things backward, right? कि क्या हुआ
Right.
उसको आप dots कैसे connect करके you are able to continue to grow. So
Right. So
without much
the
ado,
so with the caveats and disclaimers out of the way, I think that's a clear giveaway that you are a lawyer by educational background.
that's a good one. Yes, so I'll actually start with that.
Right.
My academia, my background, or my degree is from law school, right? So I spent 2010 to 2015 as a young-blooded boy from Calcutta who moved to Jindal Law School in Sonipat, right? And that's where I spent 5 years studying the law. I must say I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of the most amazing experiences to be thrown into that education because I believe it is all encompassing, right? ऐसी
Right.
कोई चीज नहीं थी that you are not exposed to, right? From philosophy to psychology to social sciences to business, wide variety of topics and subjects were touched upon, and it was phenomenal to do that. So why I'm sharing this is because I think I truly believe in the power of education, right? I feel
Right.
like हमें पढ़ाई करनी चाहिए, right? I'm an
Right.
entrepreneur today, but I think your education, your experiences in university in those formative years is extremely crucial because it develops who you are, right? Uh, Not just the what we studied in law school, but the fact that we were in an environment where you are, now there were people from all over the country who I met for the first time, right? I was a boy who grew up in Calcutta in an all boys school. अचानक
Right.
से आप कॉलेज में हो and now you are exposed to this world of people from Bombay, Bangalore, Chennai, all over come together. So there's this beautiful blend and mix of culture as well, right?
Right.
That you get there. You're interacting with these fantastic professors from these great universities all over the world who are there to impart their knowledge to you. So वो experts थे, हम सीख रहे थे उनसे,
Right.
right? And that was a phenomenal experience as well. You had, of course, no doubt, a college environment allows you to experience जो कहते हैं societies हैं, so human rights society, debate society, sports society. There were so many things to do, right?
Right.
Um, I would never ever trade any of those experiences that I put myself through, right? I remember I was a part of the theater society as well, but I had no prior or past experience in acting or in drama, right? But you put yourself in those uncomfortable positions ताकि आपको टेस्ट किया जाए. You are challenged to develop that muscle that you didn't know you have, right?
Right.
5 years was phenomenal. I did all of the things I could to my heart's content,
Right.
and the most fun part of this journey was that I met my co-founder Ashwajit, and
Right.
both of us, and mainly through him is how it came to me, is the bug of entrepreneurship. Right.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I was never expecting to be an entrepreneur or to be a business person or to start something or to build something, right? But when you meet, new people, you get exposed to new ideas, and that's what happened to me, right? Where he introduced me to this world of entrepreneurship. कि ये ऐसी भी चीज होती है.
Right.
And once we started learning and researching and discovering what it means to start something, to create something, to sell something, to add value to someone's life through your product or service, right? I
Right.
was very enamored by entrepreneurship. And upon graduating law school, we knew in our hearts that one day we will be entrepreneurs. So
Right.
that's sort of our journey in a nutshell.
Okay. And going into law school, post your class 12, you would have obviously considered multiple options. So why did you choose becoming a lawyer? And what was the end game in your mind at that point in time?
Understood. So when I was in school, my core interest was sports, right? So I
Okay.
was, playing a lot of sports. I really enjoyed being, active and outdoors. And my mom's a teacher, so education was a priority. But it
Right.
was not, I mean, I was good at it, and I enjoyed my studies. But I always thought I'd be a sports person. But I think, as liberal as my parents have been later on in my life, at that point they weren't convinced that I have a career in sport, right? At
Right.
that point they felt like, no, it's education. You need to look at your engineering or medicine. So there was, I feel we're too young at that point to make such big decisions in our lives, right?
Right.
Some people can, some people find it difficult. For me, it was difficult to decide on what I want to do.
Right.
And I so did the uh, simplest thing, सारे subjects ले लिए. So I took physics, chemistry, math, bio, सब कुछ ले लिया, right?
Okay.
And studied till the 12th grade. Prepared for my engineering entrance exams, medical entrance exams. But
Oh,
somewhere there was
wow.
a
Okay.
disconnect. There was a disconnect where I wasn't feeling it. So I told my parents, "See, I'm not feeling this. I don't think this is for me. And while I've done my level best in padhai, but I don't think karna hai." So then that's when my parents got into a deep discussion with me because they were worried, right?
Right.
Okay, what are you going to do? You've taken these subjects, and that's when my
Yeah.
dad suggested that आपको बोलना अच्छा लगता है. You should look at law as a profession because there are, if you become a traditional lawyer and go to court, it
Right.
does involve arguing in a court of law, and there'll be speaking opportunities there. Maybe you'll enjoy this. Of course, at that tender age, there were two of my close friends also who were considering doing law. So you talk to them, you understand from them as well. One of my friends' fathers was a lawyer as well. So we said, okay, let's do this, and that's how I ended up with law. To be very honest, right? But
Okay.
during law school, at least the first 2 years, I was very excited about the profession. I was very excited about what it had in store, the opportunities, and 100%. If not entrepreneurship, I would prefer law as the alternate option, as a
Mhm.
career option.
Okay. Okay. So that's very interesting. I mean, from somebody who was taking PCM with bio, with maths, preparing for engineering, and that Sleepy Owl logo, you can probably brandish it on the screen. Yeah. Yeah. So, preparing for engineering, preparing for medical, and from there getting into law is, quite
Yeah,
a remarkable shift in journey.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Great. And then, as you were mentioning, the entrepreneurship bug really hit you while you were
Correct.
with your friends and colleagues, and
Yes.
they introduced you to this world. So, tell us
Yes.
a little bit about that.
It was very simple when we went to university, and when I met Ashujit, my co-founder. He said, "Yeah, let's do something. Let's do something with our time. Let's sell something. Let's make something." it was just hacky pocket money stuff that we wanted to do at that time, right?
Right.
And today I'm wearing a Sleepy Owl hoodie, right? And
Right.
one of the first projects that we did back in the day was because my university, Jindal Law School, where I was a very new university, right? There were
Right.
only 200 students on campus at the point, and it was still in its very formative years. Most universities abroad have merchandise, right? Hoodies,
Right.
t-shirts, caps. So we took the mandate कि हम hoodies और t-shirts बना के हम college में बेच देंगे, branded merchandise, right?
Right.
So we managed a hack to get permission to sort of take the initiative to go get it done and sell it to the students internally. And it was much appreciated by everybody that okay, this
Right.
is someone's taking the initiative, so no problem.
Yeah.
So we went to a manufacturer, built the design, got the students to we took orders from everybody. It came, took the money upfront, paid the manufacturer. This whole little business, you could say, right? Because it
Right.
involves customer service, operation, design, procurement, pura karna pada. And we really enjoyed it. It was fun. We did this for 3 years back to back, where we were the sole merchandise providers for the campus and the students. And पहले 200 बच्चे थे, फिर 500 थे, फिर 1000 थे. So our
Right.
business grew with the increasing number of people who were also on campus,
Right.
and that's how the Kida first started. Then
Okay.
Preet and I said, let's take it a step above, right? And we
Mhm.
launched a bar and party accessory business. So we
Mhm.
actually imported beer pong tables, beer bongs, and a bunch of other party accessories from China. So we discovered Alibaba for the first time, and I
Correct.
think many people at that time didn't even know Alibaba existed. Even we didn't know. We
Yeah.
discovered Alibaba and we said, okay, you can actually import and export things from anywhere in the world, right? So we ended
Right.
up importing these products from China. We set up an e-commerce website, on Magento at that time, and tried to. There was no plug-and-play system the way it is in 2022, 23. This is 2012 that I'm talking about, 10 years ago. So
Right.
we really struggled to even put together a basic e-commerce website, but we put it together. We sold our products around the country, and we again thoroughly had a lot of fun and a lot of learning about what's working, what's not. To be very honest, we were very early. We were
Right.
very, very early in the e-commerce, ecosystem. Neither was the consumer as aware or as quick in purchase, nor was the infrastructure ready to
Right.
top it all. हम law की भी पढ़ाई कर रहे थे, वो छोड़ नहीं सकते थे.
Right.
So it was
And this is a venture started. This is a venture started by two second year or third year students in law school,
pretty much yes,
and
yes.
you guys had no tech background at all.
Nothing, no tech background, and typically for e-commerce, you don't need tech at
Yeah.
all.
Today, of course. Yeah.
That
But
time also there was limited tech that we had to do, so we went and we blew a lakh of rupees on getting a website built by somebody sitting somewhere. बहुत
right.
गलतियां की, बहुत
Yeah.
गलतियां की, a lot of mistakes that we did not make when we started Sleepy Owl.
Right.
But yeah, we had taken a small pool of capital from our parents and
Mhm.
सब कुछ गलत किया उसके साथ. Everything was wrong. But,
Right.
but what the most important thing is, हमने किया, right? कुछ
Right.
किया, we started, we tried.
Right.
And I think that teaches you so much. That really
True.
gives you the opportunity to make mistakes, fail, learn, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, as I always like to say, if you've got to learn how to do business or become an entrepreneur, you shouldn't do an MBA. You should actually start off something with that amount of capital because an MBA will only teach you how to do service in MNC or large Indian corporates. It will teach you how to be a good employee, but it won't teach you how to be a good employer.
100%. And of course, without a fail, I would even say an MBA, like I was talking proudly about, my education experience, right? It puts you in a network of people. You learn from
Yeah.
others, so that advantage you can never take away. So I never tell anyone, ki, say, don't use your money for an MBA and instead do a business, right?
Right.
I mean, my reason for that is because I don't discount the value of those teachers, the education, the environment, and
Right.
the people around you, and what you can learn from them, right?
Yeah.
So that but yes, the other way is ki, why not take that money and start something small, right?
Right.
And you never know where that will go also for you.
Yeah, and in fact, you had the best of both worlds because you were, privileged to be in a setup which
Hmm.
was already ahead of its times. Because it's
Yeah,
only now with the NEP or the new education policy that we are talking about multidisciplinary environments.
true.
And I think in those days when you were studying law, that time the culture was pretty much unidimensional and studies only in one direction.
100%.
But
But Jindal as a university, right, was
yeah,
always spoke about itself as a multidisciplinary university because,
yeah,
and I'm again fortunate to be there and not at a national law school because there was a business school that started. There was a school of public policy, a school of governance, a school of international relations. All came up in the 5 years that I was in university there. So again,
right,
there were professors and students from very very diverse backgrounds that you could do. Also, your electives that you choose, the subjects that
right,
you go by choice, you can pick from any discipline, any other school as well. So those
right,
credits get added. So you can take credits in photography and you'll still pass your law degree. So
right.
that's phenomenal, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't get those opportunities everywhere in the world.
No, that's true. Yeah. And the culture is changing, but it was pretty ahead of its times, I would
Correct,
say, in 2010 to 15 time
correct,
frame.
correct,
Yeah.
100%. Yes,
Yeah. So these sort of mini entrepreneurial ventures or side hustles or whatever
yes,
is the terminology that you may use
yes.
probably set the background. So did you get into entrepreneurship right after college, or was there a gap in between?
No. So, obviously, when we realized that that business that we started for the bar accessories was not going anywhere, specific,
Right.
we decided that we'll wind that down. And we tried, doing one or two internships, law internships, but bilkul maza nahi aaya.
Right.
And both of us were lucky and fortunate enough to end up getting jobs in other startups. So I worked in an education technology company that was run by a family friend.
Okay.
I always mention that because I didn't crack that job on my own. It was a favor, please isko kuch
Right.
kaam de do. But they were excited to have me, because they liked my entrepreneurial hustle. So they felt
Right.
like, yeah, okay, come learn. We'll give you the platform, right? So that's an advantage. But yes, it was a family friends company, and I had a great experience. I was there for 9 months. Ashwajit, my co-founder at that time, joined a fashion startup. He was at a company called Cora Jeans, selling denim jeans. And both of us were entrusted with responsibilities around marketing, branding, PR, small teams, and we were actually a part of organizations, right? So that
Right.
was when the reality hit that, yeah, what we were doing in our dorm room and in between our classes is
Yeah.
not business.
Right.
It's a project. And we looked
Right.
at the office, the culture, the team, the meetings, the structure, and it really opened our eyes as to, okay, this is what business is. This is how organization is run, not just a business, right?
Right.
And however, it was cut short because as I mentioned, that bug that comes and is in you. My co-founder and best friend Ashwajit called me and said, "Listen, I've been here for about 6 7 months. I do everything. ऐसी कोई चीज नहीं है जो मैं कंपनी के लिए नहीं करता हूँ. इसलिए
Right.
अगर इतनी ही मेहनत करनी है तो फिर अपना कुछ
Right.
शुरू करते हैं.
Uh,
And that was, he had a lot of courage, a lot of risk taking
mhm.
ability, and he convinced me as well to join him on this mad adventure.
Right.
And at the same time, we have a third co-founder, Ajay, who was in New York. He was working in JP Morgan. He was coming back to India because he wanted to be a part of the startup wave in India and be closer to family here and be a part of the Indian story, right?
Right.
So he came back to India as well, and then the three of us got together and we said, okay, we'll start something. Initially, the seed idea was to do something in food and beverage,
Mhm.
but when we were able to brainstorm better, look at our own habits, behaviors of ourselves and those around us, we narrowed down to coffee because two things. If you look at the market, it was a duopoly. There were two
Mhm.
MNCs that controlled the FMCG market and maybe two to three brands that control the cafe market. That was
Right.
very, very nascent. That was one. Second was we saw consumer behavior changing. We ourselves were at that age of 20 to 30 with the proliferation of the internet, social media, how people's habits and behaviors were changing. So we said we could ride that wave as well. The third, that India is one of the largest growers and exporters of great quality coffee, right? It
Right.
is, because we are a tea consuming nation, that is
Mhm.
usually overlooked, but India has fantastic coffee, and we wanted to bring that to people and have that as a core part of why we exist. So it was these
Right.
three reasons simply that made us decide that we will build something in coffee.
Right. Yeah, in fact, this is quite startling that India is one of the leading coffee producers and growers. That's not something that is commonly known.
Yeah,
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 because historically we've been always on the side of consumption of tea rather than coffee.
correct.
But a lot has changed in the last decade. And so, have you had a role to play in, you know, evangelizing the concept of coffee or the kind of coffee
I
that
would,
you
I
guys
would, I
produce?
would like to believe yes. I
Mhm.
think while a lot of people now are I think a lot of people are well traveled, are exposed through social media to global concepts. I think Starbucks came to India in 2012. You've had proliferation of cafes, all international brands coming to India, including Tim Hortons most recently, right? So all of that
Right.
has definitely helped expose the larger part of India to coffee as a beverage. I think the number of startups, offices, corporates are also now, coffee machines is a big thing. So all of that has played a role. But I think in terms of making coffee fun, making coffee cool, making it exciting, right?
Right.
That's where we've come in because we started out as a digitally native brand, right? Which means
Right.
that we existed only on the internet, right?
Right.
We didn't have any physical real estate in terms of coffee shops. We didn't have any physical machines in offices. We were strictly a digital only brand.
Right.
And that's how we started our journey. And because social media at that time was proliferating and, getting big, we managed to ride that wave and became popular on the internet, right? So we were
Right.
an internet first brand. And I
Right.
think
And
that
this was a time when D2C was not even a term. I mean, there was no concept called D2C, right?
there
They
was no
only used to
concept
be
of
B2B and B2C.
correct, correct.
Yeah.
So we were D2C before D2C became D2C.
Right.
And yeah, so we've seen that that journey, and it's been an absolute joyride. Building the business and seeing consumers adopt such concepts, right? So we started with this concept called cold brew coffee, which is at that point unheard of in India, right?
Right.
And even globally, it was just in its nascent stages. It's a method of brewing coffee in cold water instead of hot water. And we would first told our own parents कि हम ये business कर रहे हैं, cold brew launch करेंगे. It was
Right.
like, यार, what is this? What are you even
Right.
saying? It sounds, gibberish to us. He said, don't worry, we are convinced that this is going to be in the next 10 years, one of the largest, categories in coffee. And we're excited
Right.
to be on this journey. And yeah, India adopted, a lot of, I would say again, early adopters, right? The users of Uber, Netflix, Airbnb, small population of the country uses these actively, regularly, right? But
Right.
those guys really took to Sleepy Owl really, really well and really, really quickly. That gave us the propulsion to at least get going, right?
Right.
It's really I don't know. I hope it's made us a household name.
Right, right. And let's talk about the early days before we get into
Yes,
the phase where it's become more popular. But in the early days, one of the big questions that startup founders or even aspiring entrepreneurs grapple with is the astounding failure rate of startups,
correct.
right? So I'm sure that thought would have also crossed your mind, even though you had some experience with entrepreneurship and you were already working in a startup ecosystem. But how did you approach this proposition of getting into a venture where historically 90% of ventures do not make the cut and die within a year or a couple of years?
I mean, to be very honest, we didn't have a choice. We were very excited about wanting to build our own business, right? So when you do that, when that is the level of excitement or courage that you have as an individual, you
Mhm.
are prepared for the failure also. You're like, okay,
Right.
that if that is an eventuality, it is, and then we'll deal with it when that happens, right?
Right.
I think two things come into play here. One, we were very confident that we had our initial read on the market correct, right? So
Right.
there was confidence there. Second, and I will never discount this, is it's not good to have it, but we did have this fallback option, right? Which
Right.
is that worst comes to worst if it fails, right? We tried, you can get another job, right? I think we're smart enough to pull that off. If that also doesn't happen, then in the interim, right, roti kapda makan mil jayega. That
Right.
is, matlab, and if you
Right.
have that, it's a big bonus because our immediate family, our parents, were supportive of our decision. We weren't
Right.
we weren't fighting two battles, as I call it, right?
Right.
One battle is to make your company survive, so you're fighting competition, the world around you,
Right.
everything. Right? The second battle
Yeah.
is if you are trying to convince your own near and dear ones to support you, right? So we
Mhm.
had wholehearted support from our near and dear ones, right?
Right.
So we knew that they are batting for us, they're batting with us, and we had that
Right.
risk, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, we weren't afraid of failure. We were
Right.
excited to try.
Right.
And I think that's a good way to approach business, because if you let the failure or worry overtake you, I think then most people, that is the reason most people don't start, right? That
Right.
is that is the biggest reason most people don't even begin. So many people have ideas but are risk averse, right?
Right.
And we think that the biggest returns, the biggest value comes when you take risk, right?
Correct.
So we took the risk and we went in all in. Matlab, there was no
Yeah.
looking back
Right.
for us at all. And I think from day one we had a couple of fundamentals clear, which is great product, great service. I mean, there is we
Mhm.
didn't read deeper into it. You didn't at that time. We didn't look at unit economics, pricing. बहुत चीजें होती हैं business में. At that time it was simple. एक अच्छा product बनाओ और अच्छी service दो. बाकी सब देखा जाएगा.
Right.
You know? And
Yeah.
that's how we approached it.
Right. Yeah. So at the, going to the heart of what matters as a consumer brand. Yeah.
Correct.
And in fact, you're saying, with the family being together, you had only one battle to fight. But I would argue that you already had a couple more battles because it wasn't just about setting up a venture. It's also about, creating that D2C category. It's about creating a new category of brand in, cold brew coffee. So there were already quite a few battles. But
Yes, yes.
yeah, there's nothing as important as having that support, whether it's a relationship support or an emotional support
Yeah.
of the family, knowing that they are with you and supporting you in the venture, or whether
Also,
it is the financial cushion that you have.
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it a cushion. I don't think all the three of us come from very wealthy family backgrounds or anything like that. I
Mhm.
just feel like we come from very good environments, right? That's
Right.
about it, right? Where there
Mhm.
is that care and support and love, right? It's not
Right.
that we come. I wouldn't use the word financial cushion as much as मतलब अगर फेल होके घर जाते लात तो पड़ती,
Right.
right? So I mean, parents are strict that way, but
Right.
support, right?
Yeah.
I think the most important that we should always acknowledge is we're three of us, right? We're three co-founders, so we had each other through this journey. We knew that it's going to be tough.
Right.
It is still tough, right? I won't
Right.
deny that. I'm sometimes talking past tense. It is still tough. It is still, this extremely grueling journey where day in and day out you are, still fighting against the world, still trying to
Right.
educate consumers, still fending off competition, still convincing the world around you that you deserve this opportunity to get exposed to more people. But yeah, we are three co-founders. We absolutely enjoy working together. We spend time hustling together, and
Right.
we know that we have each other's backs, which is again goes back to uh, the emotional support you need on this journey of entrepreneurship, right? So
Right.
my personal recommendation to anyone always is don't go solo,
Right.
right? Always have a co-founder.
Right. Yeah, it is a very lonely journey, absolutely. And yeah, if you go solo, at least you need to have all the multifaceted skills that one needs
True.
because just one skill alone or one idea alone does not build an organization.
No,
So you need pretty much everything that you see in a large organization. You need a microcosm of that inside of a startup
fully
in
agree.
order to succeed, and that's easier said than done. It's definitely not possible to have all of that within you in your early 20s
Hmm.
or at a young age. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Right. So, you spoke about the fact that it is still very tough and it's a challenge. So let's talk about some of the challenges both at the early stages as well as the challenges that you face now that you are an established brand. So how has the nature of these challenges changed over a period of time?
I think they've only gotten more and more difficult, right? As you scale a
Okay.
business, right, the problems only get bigger. And I think one assumes or thinks that the starting is the toughest, right? But I
Right.
think it's equally tough to maintain that momentum, right?
Hmm.
So our journey hasn't become easier at all. Yes, there are more resources. We've raised some capital from external investors, But in the moment you think that money will solve the problem, you only
Right.
realize on the journey that it adds to the it adds to the problems.
Right.
Sometimes you look back and I think we've done things way smarter, way more jugadu, way more intelligently when we were devoid of capital. Uh,
Right.
you know, so yeah, I think the journey just gets tougher and tougher and tougher at every I think it's like a game, right? Up level one, two, three, you keep crossing the levels, but at each
Right.
level there is a new monster that you need to beat, to cross to the level above that, right?
Right.
So it's not rosy, right?
Right.
That's the reality of entrepreneurship and business. And
Right.
maybe I don't know if this is may not be true for every business, but doing business in India is tough, right? I don't know how easy or difficult it is outside the country, but
Right.
ease of doing business in India is definitely its own, it's its own beast.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. But yeah, before we
Yeah,
dive into that one, you mentioned that getting money has its own problems, right? It maybe
correct.
comes with its own strings attached. So let's dive a little deeper into that, because at least the way capitals and fundraising, etc., is portrayed in the media, it is as if that raising a round is equivalent to success. That's the popular projection. But
Mhm.
as an entrepreneur, you're presenting a slightly different viewpoint on the incidence of raising capital. So how do you see capital, and how has your journey changed after raising capital?
Okay. See, without a doubt, capital is important, right? Because you
Right.
are competing in any industry, you have competition, right? So how deep pocketed you and your competition are is makes a huge difference in how you are able to market yourselves, the innovations that you can do, the kind of people and team that you can hire, right?
Right.
So from that perspective, once you are very clear as a founder, right, where do you want to take this business? You got to have that clarity first, right?
Right.
And if you know that, hey, you want to build a large consumer, and I can only speak on behalf of consumer businesses, right? You want to build a large consumer business, right, in the country, and here I'm not just talking about competition at the startup level, right? Like our immediate competition who started around the same time or after us, right? I'm talking
Right.
about you also competing against the Nestle's and Unilevers of the world, right?
Right. The
Uh,
biggest multinational corporations
Biggest
in the
multinational
world are in this space.
are in the space, correct, right? So it was but obvious that we would have to go down the venture capital route, right?
Absolutely.
Now, uh, that in itself is the first time I would say beyond the three of us who we trust each other blindly, right? You're getting into bed with a new partner, right? So that first decision of who you're going to partner with, what kind of equity should you dilute? Who is the partner? What is the capital you're getting? Will there be more capital where that came from when you need it? Are they going to be supportive? So that decision is very crucial, right? So my advice to, and I think we made a great call with we have fantastic investors on board who supported us throughout our journey. um, and I would say that to young founders, that is the first very very major decision, because you're getting into bed with a third party, right? In our
Right.
case, fourth party. And it's a crucial decision to make. Now, there are two things that can happen with money, right? You have to be you have to learn how to allocate capital, right? And I think that muscle comes with time, with experience, right? I don't think any entrepreneur allocates capital perfectly. There's no 10 on 10, right?
Right.
You make mistakes. Like, you have money in the bank, you have ideas, you want to do experiments, you want to try different things, because some will work, some won't, right?
Right.
And I think on that journey we've had our share of hits and misses, right?
Right.
And whether it's in team building, whether it's in hiring, whether it's in a certain category that we want to do, whether it's a certain kind of packaging we want to do, certain kind of inventory you want to buy, right? Like, you can get stuck
Right.
with you've over ordered a particular item that is not selling, you're screwed,
Right.
right? I mean, that money is gone down the drain, right?
Right.
Given credit to a retailer or a distributor and you never see that money again, bad debt
Right.
can happen, right? Now, obviously, when you have money in the bank, you may give more credit, you may extend more credit to a partner or a distributor. Those are things that happen, right? So when you
Right.
don't have money in the bank, you will think 200 times before that decision or that partnership, right? But when you
Right.
have money in the bank, you start wanting to experiment. So these are the kind of mistakes that happen when you have too much money or you have
Right.
right in the bank that comes from an investor. So yeah, that's sort of my learnings, and to advise people to, yeah, just really really, you know always pretend like you don't have money. You may
Right.
have money in bank, but behave like you don't, and maybe you'll be better off. But
Right.
at the end, there's a catch there. You're raising money because it is meant to be spent. You're not raising it to put it in an FD, right?
Right.
You're raising it because you need to use that capital to grow your business,
Correct.
right? So yeah, so it's
So
very difficult.
that's the balance that you need to tread very
Yes,
carefully.
I guess
Yeah.
yeah.
No, absolutely. And in terms of capital and more importantly, the metrics of the business that you're tracking, uh, what kind of unit economies have you seen over the years? I heard you mentioned in when you were in your college venture, then you didn't even know what this term was all about. But in your existing venture, how have the unit economies changed over a period of time?
I think I'll just share from a business fundamentals perspective, irrespective of us, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm not asking you to brandish your
no, 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 no,
financials
no,
here.
no, no, no. I'm happy to even share that, but I think it's very simple, right?
Yeah.
Any business, right? It's especially a consumer business, right? You got to look at your first and foremost, and the most important is your gross margins, right? And if you have healthy GMs, that's a great starting point to build a business, right? And I think it all boils down to your cost of raw material and packaging material. That is, all your input costs have to be controlled, right, while not compromising on the quality, right? Your retail price that you intend to sell the product to the market needs to be competitive, right?
Right.
You can have really really good gross margins by pricing your product at a level where it will not sell as much as you'd like it to because it's overpriced, right? So that balance of what your input costs are and your MRP is to arrive at a good gross margin is very very crucial. Now what has happened to us over the years and to a lot of businesses is that with inflation and with cost of raw material logistics going up, gross margins have seen a drastic hit, right? uh,
Right.
while consumers may or may not, and usually are not, really excited to pay more for the same thing.
Right.
So that's something that we've seen in the last 6 years, is that the margins that we started this business with, right, and the margins that we have today are not the same, right?
Right.
And that's the reality of all consumer businesses, and that's because of the macroeconomic environment that we are in today, right? There's been a war, there's been COVID. It's just been like, sometimes I wonder everything had to happen in our decade of doing business. That's one. Second, I would say is, um, just you have to be very 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 mindful of the infrastructure you put in place, right? Whether
Right.
it's machinery in terms of capex, whether it's people and resources that you use. Be very mindful on those costs, because ultimately, you know yes, there's only a certain amount of time that those costs are can be overlooked, right? But
Right.
if you want to build a profitable business, then every penny, every rupee goes into the calculation. So be mindful of everything else as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, ultimately you are running a business which is for profit. So you got to look at the commercial realities. And at the same time, because you are in the startup ecosystem,
Hmm.
and once you've raised capital, there is an expectation of hyper growth.
Yeah,
So you got to balance the two factors.
100%.
Yeah. And I think in the case of a consumer brand, especially, what you mentioned about the ability to command a higher retail price or an MRP, it's also the power of the brand. So you've got to invest a lot in your brand, especially when you are up against the Levers and the Nestle's of the world,
Absolutely.
or,
Absolutely. And I think
Starbucks, etc., on the cafe
I'm so
side.
glad that you brought this point up, because I think a lot of people do not focus on their brand as much, because I think we realized from the get go that you know that yes, products, in the product journey there are a lot of changes, a lot of evolution of the products that you may launch, and what may work and what may not work, but what stays constant usually is the brand and people's association with the brand, right?
Right.
So again, in terms of irrespective of what product, great product, right? Service always has to be on point, because that is how they remember the brand. They may remember, consumers will probably remember an experience. They may not remember which product they had that experience with,
Right.
because they ultimately remember how you made them feel, right? So whether
Right.
it's in your communication, whether it's in your look, feel, design, whether it's in your customer service, whether it's in the way you work with your retail partners, distributors, suppliers, anybody,
Right.
it is ultimately the emotion that you have about the brand that goes a long way, right? And especially if you intend to stand the test of time.
Right. So, we spoke about Sleepy Owl and we did a play of words in the beginning when I
Yes.
introduced you. But yeah, that was my take. But, what is your take on Sleepy Owl and the brand and what does it stand for?
So, sleepy owl is an oxymoron, right? Which is essentially two contrasting words put together. Most people, in our understanding, think of coffee when they're sleepy, right? Or when they want to be kept awake, right?
Right.
Owl is a bird that stays awake at night, which is who we were when we were in law school and in my co-founder in his finance, investment banking job. Is we were burning the midnight oil, much like owls. So we felt that this is an interesting play of words and a name that is memorable, right? So when we were coming up and doing naming for the business and the startup, we had clear guidelines on that the name has to be memorable, because for consumer brands, you never want a situation, ideally, when someone is like, "Oh, I had this great cup of coffee. Naam bhul raha hu brand ka, but I'll
Right.
find out and I'll tell you." Right? So when someone's praising your product or doing word of mouth marketing for you, it
Right.
is best that that name is easy to recall. Uh,
Right.
that was, essentially how we did it. The third piece that we was again intentional was that we were looking for a mascot. We were looking for something that, to be very honest, we were inspired by Blue Bottle in the US,
Hmm.
because most of their cafes in the US don't have the name; they just have a blue color bottle on the outside.
Right.
We said this is really cool. Like, I mean, like there's just a an image that you
Right.
can look at and you can associate the brand with that image. So for us, that became the owl.
Right.
We said let's do this. Let's see if we can hopefully build a brand strong enough. And I think we're still on that journey, right? That
Right.
one day all you need is the owl, and people can say, "Yeah, wo sleepy owl ka do hai."
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. And I think that's why the owl is also very prominent on your packaging, and that's
Correct,
by design.
correct. It
So
is by design. Yes,
yeah. Oh, absolutely. So that's great. And speaking of branding, we've spoken a bit about the logistics and the supply chain and the
yeah.
fundraising part. So these are all different dimensions of the business. So as three co-founders, how do you manage to divide it up? And what was the process of figuring out who does what?
I'll start with Ajay. He's an investment banker. So it
Right,
was but obvious that everything in finance, fundraising, HR, team building, business modeling would be taken care of by him.
right,
For Ashwini and me as lawyers, it was a bit tricky,
right,
because we said, okay, who does what? But I think he had a very clear sense from day one on branding, design, packaging, communication. So it just made more of a natural fit for him as an individual to do that. I always joke that I was left with the the leftovers, right?
right,
I took on the challenge initially for supply chain operations, procurement, manufacturing, distribution. Sort of looked at that piece. As effective of last year, I have moved out of that as well, and now I look at sales. I look at our public relations. I look at new product development. I look at customer support and customer service. So
okay,
that's how I've that's what I'm doing today.
right,
Most of it for both Ashwajit and I has been quite self-taught. And we've learned along the way, which is why we always talk about how we approach these things slightly unconventionally, right?
right,
It's not by the book or by a certain rule of thumb key. This is what you
right,
do. It's
yeah.
just like our understanding and experience of the world around us.
Right. No, absolutely. Instead of just applying standard templates, you kind of figure it out from first principles. And
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, and that leads to new learnings and innovations in the business model also.
Mhm.
And in terms of doing things amongst yourselves, because three co-founders is a bit of a luxury, because you have three people who are kind of working for free in a sense. So what was your take on whether to outsource something, to delegate it, or hire a team, versus just trying to hustle your way through and have the three co-founders do everything on your own?
So I think one of the mistakes that we made is for the longest time, I would say for the first almost 3.5 years, 4 years almost, right? We were doing that, right? We didn't
Just
build,
hustling your way through.
just hustling our way through. We didn't think of team building. We didn't think of hiring, the right folks for the right role. A lot of a mishmash, right? But I
Right.
think the last 2.5 years, we've really exposed ourselves to the startup ecosystem, other founders around us, in our our investors network, as well as friends and family around us, and the other founders we know, and really understood better about team building, about hiring, about firing, about everything there is to do. Because I think truly even we have to learn from the experts around us, right? Or
Right.
people on their journey. So for the first couple of years, two things happened. We were at that time very, very small. It was a very niche category. We only had a handful of SKUs, which are stock keeping units, and we were available on very limited sales channels. So
Right.
so that was one aspect of it. So we didn't need to have a large team around us at that point in time. But as the business has grown, we've taken we now we have a larger team. Yeah.
Okay. And the team expansion happened after the funds were raised, after capital was raised?
Yes, correct.
So great. From from setting up a team and getting external help, I'm sure that would have helped you also grow and kind of released your bandwidth to focus on avenues for growth, right?
Absolutely. Setting up a good team around us has firstly made us better managers, better leaders, and we're learning how to build that muscle, right? We're also learning how to further delegate and divide the work amongst the three of us. And, and we have the principle, which is now simply called buck stops at you, right?
Right.
Which is, who is the one and only sole responsible person for something. So yeah, it's been a good experience, but we also learned that not all problems are solved by hiring people around you, right? You can't
Right.
expect the fundamentals to be corrected just because you've hired someone, right? Like
Right.
that journey is the journey that the founders have to continuously introspect on and continue to solve those things.
Right. No, absolutely. In fact, if you compare it to a large organization where the cost of a mishire is not, very significant in the
Mhm.
context of the organization, in the case of a young startup, that is a very, very significant cost, both from an expenditure standpoint as well as from a missed opportunity standpoint or a, cultural mishap.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. You're very, very right on that front. And which is why I think the hiring muscle also, is one that you really, really need to build, right? And yeah, I mean, we had our fair share of, misses and our fair share of hits as well on that front.
Right. Yeah.
And we also have a good internship program that we do every summer, because we
Right.
genuinely find a lot of value in having young blood come in and spend a couple of months with us. So typically we do 2, 3, or 4 month internships, and we have people come and be a part of the organization almost as an employee.
Right.
And I think that's something that we've done well, that has really helped us, and it's helped us learn also from the
Right.
younger folk.
Yeah, I'm sure, if you relate back to your college days and, what you were able to do as college students, I, I think it's only fair to pass on that share of opportunities to others who may not have the background or the mindset or the courage to go
Mhm.
solo or, start up a venture. At least they can be a part of a startup ecosystem and
Absolutely,
learn a lot from that experience.
absolutely. That's very true.
Yeah. And, now having reached this stage, what is it that you're looking for? What is your, vision for Sleepy Owl in the times to come? And what are your next big milestones?
I think a couple of things here. One, I think we're still very nascent, very early in the consumer journey in India, right? So it's been 6 years. Earlier there were, when we started, we believed that 3 years, 6 years business, we'll build it big. I think you
Right,
only learn when you're in it. That FMCG businesses take decades,
right,
consumer brands take decades, right? So there is, it's a long haul, right?
right,
So off late in the last couple of years, no new major milestones, no new innovations. Everything is a work in progress. We are slowly, brick by brick,
hmm,
building the fundamentals of the business so that we can stand the test of time. Right.
right,
I think we've earlier in interviews, maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, I would have something immensely amazing to share. Now it's
right,
more like, put your head down, keep doing the work. That's it. There
right.
is nothing
Yeah,
we're expanding distribution, we're expanding our operations, we're getting to more parts of the country that we weren't available in, and what's working for us, we're doubling down on those things essentially.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
and you know I think that's important to do sometimes, to
Right.
just step back and stick to the basics.
Yeah. No, I think this is very, very important what you mentioned, that, brands or large consumer brands which are able to stand the test of time, they
Hmm.
take a lot of time to build. It's not something that you can just do in a couple of years. Because what has happened, particularly in the recent past, is that the time to become a unicorn, at least for some companies, has reduced drastically. So I think
Hmm.
there is a general expectation amongst the people that, when you are approaching the startup ecosystem, if you make it big, it's just a matter of couple of years and, you're all set. But in real life, that doesn't happen in 99% of the cases. What we are looking at is maybe just 1 or 2% exceptions, even out of the 10% that succeed. So it's an
100%. There is, and it's when you look around you as entrepreneurs, there is sometimes FOMO. There is sometimes, I wouldn't use the word jealousy, but like, you're looking at what's happening in the ecosystem around you.
right,
People are becoming unicorns in 2 years, 1 year, 3 years. It's very important to keep telling yourself that everyone has a journey.
right,
Even if they may have become unicorn in 1 year, they've
right,
had their own challenges, right? They've had
right,
their own struggles. You are on your own journey. Focus on your own journey. So that's
right.
something that we are,
Yeah.
you're going to blind yourself to the noise and to everything around you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, even when you become big, even when you raise fund, it's not, the end of your woes or your hustles or your challenges.
Not
They
at all.
only, you just keep leveling up, not just in terms of the scale of the business, but also in terms of the complexity and the challenges and what you have
True.
to deal with. So I guess it's very important to also enjoy what you're doing and really be aligned to what your business is all about, rather
Mhm.
than just thinking about, making a big business or making a big name or, making good
Fully
bucks.
agree. I'll tell you, because none of the things that you said, the last three things, right? None of those are you can be your focus. Your focus only has
Right.
to be your consumer, right?
Yeah.
Because that is why you exist. That
Right.
is that is what you are doing. You're serving a consumer, right? And that
Right.
consumer and their happiness is, the most crucial element in your success story.
Right. No, absolutely. And if I were to kind of just expand upon that as, maybe an advice from your side, I think what you're saying is that if you do not love the challenge that you're solving, if you do not love the consumer or the problem that you're trying to solve in the industry, then it is not something that will set you up very well for, sticking it out in the long run.
True, true. Fully agree with you. Yeah, because it is, you have to have the patience to build a business for, especially if you want to build a brand that stands the test of time. You have to have that muscle of patience, right?
Right.
And that only comes when you truly believe that the problem that you're solving is extremely important to be solved, and that you continuously get that feedback from your consumers that yes, we value what you're doing, right? That keeps you motivated.
Right.
So as much as we do focus on negative feedback that consumers
Right.
share so we can improve, I also tell the team, please keep focusing on the positive feedback, because that
Right.
will tell you that yes, आप जितनी भी मेहनत कर रहे हो, it is worth it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's important to be again looking at things from a balanced standpoint and not just look at
Mhm.
one dimension, either positive or just negative.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so great, Arman. I think there was a ton of wisdom that came from the sleepy owl and the journey of the sleepy owl, particularly for aspiring entrepreneurs, whether you are building a brand based business or otherwise. I think many of the principles that you mentioned about entrepreneurship and the experiences you shared will be invaluable for people. But any final word of advice to somebody who's kind of sitting on the fence and looking at starting an entrepreneurial journey?
So jump off the fence.
Great, great. So on that note, Arman, thanks a lot for sharing your journey, and to all the viewers who are listening out there, if you want if you want the inspiring messages to go on to other people who are sitting on the fence, do subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video with your network, with all the aspiring entrepreneurs or with early stage entrepreneurs. They are going through a lot and they sometimes feel like giving up, but it's a beautiful journey despite all the challenges. If you are in it, if it is something that you like doing, then it is worth everything that you go through.
Thank you so much, and I hope people find value in this.
Great. Thanks a lot, Arman.
Thank
With
you.
that, see you everyone with the next episode of Unleash with FTEM, Unleash with From the Expert's Mouth.